everyone, and welcome back to the channel. We are up to stage 5 of the builder's journey. So we have been going through this. We have one more stage to take a look at after what we're going to talk about today. So we are making awesome progress. And today we're going to dive into the trellis stage. I'm looking forward to sharing it with you. All right, let's get right into it. I want you to look around you and I want you to notice something. That everything in this world, even the universe itself, it runs on order. The tide follows the pull of the moon. The sun rises and sets with precision. Seasons change without fail. Gravity holds planets in place. You never have to wake up in the morning and say to yourself, I wonder if the sun is going to set today. It just happens. There's this order that is built into nature where things happen and they happen in a seamless way. And these don't happen by accidents. They're actually systems that's been built into the fabric of our world, invisible structures even. You may even call them divine laws that keeps chaos at bay and makes life possible. And in business, we need that same kind of trellis, order, system, not just for stability, but it's also the means by which flourishing is able to happen as well. The trellis stage is where you stop relying on just hustle and momentum and just being in the moment, if you will, and you start relying more so now on structure. Because just like the universe, your business needs systems that allows growth to flow and not just happen. This is the trellis stage, the stage where structure catches up with success. Remember last time we spoke about in the overgrown stage that you're having this success now, things are growing, which is why things are feeling a lot more messier than it did in its beginning. Well, in the trellis stage, we want to have structure and order catch up to the success that you've been experiencing, where you stop being the only one holding it together and you start creating support that's going to hold you together and hold the company together as well. If the overgrown stage was where you felt like you were drowning just in all of this opportunity, well, the trellis stage is where you finally build the scaffolding that's needed for you to climb up. I want you to think of your business as a vine. Think about it as a vine. In the early stages, you needed this grit and hustle and movement just to get things going and growing. But without structure, the vine can begin to break under the weight of that success. And I'm going to give you an illustration. I've been sharing with you all that I'm doing some gardening. And so a lot of what we're talking about is coming right out of the garden, right out of those lessons that I'm getting from being in the garden. And we're growing some tomatoes. And one of the things that you need to do with the tomato plant is as it starts to grow, you need to put in a trellis to help to train the leaves to go up, as well as to provide support for the tomato plants as it grows. Why? Because when those tomatoes start coming in, they get heavy and they weigh down the leaves of the plant to the point that they can break off. And so a structure is needed right in the middle of the plant so that it can support the tomatoes. It can hold up the success that it's having and make sure that nothing falls through the cracks. I hope you guys are catching what I'm putting down in saying that. Without structure, the vine can't reach its full potential. Growth becomes chaotic and branches are just breaking under the weight of that success. A trellis doesn't restrict growth. It's just really helping to guide it. It lifts what's growing and gives it shape. It helps to support its structure, if you will. This is the stage of the business where you must change even more how you see yourself. Now, the reality is that in each stage of your business's growth, it requires something different from you that it required in previous stages. You as an entrepreneur are growing and becoming very much and at the same time as a business is growing. And so this stage of business, this trellis stage also requires something of you. You're no longer just the doer of all the things, but you're now the architect. You've shifted positions. You're the one who's shaping the environment and not just performing in it. You don't scale by doing more. You scale by doing less of the wrong things and more of the right things through others. And it makes complete sense when you think about it. As you begin your business growth, you actually don't really know what most of the right things are to do. But experience begins to teach you. Other people's experience begins to teach you. And there's greater wisdom now that you have about what works and what doesn't work. So now as you're in the trellis stage and you're putting in some structure and order in the business, you're able to do that with a greater wisdom as to what is working and what isn't working. And even with greater insight on how to really leverage other individuals to come alongside you and to support what you are building. I want you to go back in your mind or go back to the last video, if you will. And here's a plug that if you haven't seen the last video, you really should go back and watch it and then come back over here. But in the last video, we talked about Moses, and we talked about how Moses was chosen by God to lead the children of Israel out of Egyptian captivity into the promised land. And Moses had a very intelligent and awesome father-in-law in Jethro, who noticed one day that Moses, as the leader of this 1 million+ group of people, was the one that was meeting with everyone all day. He was taking their issues. He was just doing everything. And Jethro said to Moses, listen, what you're doing is not wise. That's what we talked about last time. Well, as you continue to read, you realize that Jethro says to Moses, because what you're doing is not wise, what you really need to do is to delegate. You really need to appoint captains of 10s and 20s and 30s. You need to spread the love a little bit around so that you can be able to really manage this in the right way. And when you think about this stage of business, you're really realizing that your leadership growth is going to become even more exponential. Because as you begin to add more and more to the team now, you're not just managing yourself or a contractor or a person here or there. Now your leadership growth is needed because you are whom everyone is looking to for direction and instruction as to what they should do. Most founders don't fight structure or organization just because they love things to be in chaos, just because they're disorganized themselves. But what I have found is that most business owners and entrepreneurs will fight this a little bit because deep down, they're afraid. They are afraid. They're afraid that if I let go, will things really get done? If I delegate, will they even do it right? Because I have a particular way that I like things to get done. And if I hand it off to someone else, how will they even know what I like? How can I be sure that they're going to produce it to the same standard or to the same quality that I would? If I step back, who am I now? I have been doing all of these things and you're telling me not to do it anymore, then who will I be in this business? What would I contribute to this business? And so procrastination at this stage, it's not about laziness per se. It's just about identity loss. You are the linchpin. You are the go-to person. You are the expert. But now you're called to be the leader and not the lifeline. And that looks different because the goal of building a business, believe it or not, is to not grow something that is always dependent on you. And sometimes we may say to ourselves that I need to make myself so indispensable that this business can never operate without me, because that's my gold ticket to make sure I'm always going to stick around. But no, I want you to think about growing this business as though you are growing a child. I love to use that illustration because I believe that conceptualizing a business and beginning to grow it, the business becomes like a little child. And when you think about parenting, the job of a good parent is to help children to grow, to become autonomous, independent human beings, able to operate in the world without dependent on their parents for everything. And likewise, when you're growing a business, The idea is to grow an entity that can survive and thrive if you took a 3-month sabbatical somewhere. It's able to operate independently of you without disruption. That's really what we're aiming to grow as we're thinking about growing a business. And so letting go of control shouldn't mean that things fall apart. And if they do fall apart when you step away for a moment, that's clear indication that you're missing the systems and the trellis, the support to help to guide this business to become something that can operate without you. I want to give you a case study because I like to tell stories. I believe stories help to illustrate even better than mere words some of these principles that we're talking about. So I want to share with you about a client. We'll call him Marcus. And Marcus is really a composite of different clients that I've worked with over the years. So let me introduce him to you. He's a brilliant entrepreneur. He has a growing business and a loyal team. Marcus wasn't burnt out, but he was getting pretty close to that threshold. He knew he needed systems. He knew he needed to delegate. But there was a quiet truth beneath it all, something nagging that he wasn't comfortable at first in really expressing. And that truth is that he loved being in the weeds. He loved being in the thick of things. He didn't just want to be a visionary. He wanted to do the work. That is why he started the business, not to sit behind some desk and push papers. No, I want to be in the weeds. I really want to be doing the thing, not just talking about doing the thing, if you will. And that's what made the shift so hard in Marcus's mind, to think about how his role needed to change as he was in this Trellis stage. Stepping back from being the doer of everything felt in some ways as though he was stepping away from his identity. And it wasn't so much about his ego per se. There was joy that he felt in doing the work. He found meaning in being hands-on, and he was afraid that that meaning now was going to leave and disappear. So in working with a person like Marcus, we don't strip that away. Instead, we restructure the role. We put the systems in place, we clarify the roles and expectations for everyone involved, and we learn how to delegate day-to-day operations to trusted team members. But we still carve out intentional space so that Marcus can still do the work he loves. Not out of obligation now, not because it's required of him, but simply because it's something that he enjoys. So he doesn't stop being creative, he just stops being chaotic. And there is a difference. And for the first time now, under a scenario like that, Marcus's business can begin to serve him rather than him serving the business. And so I want you to hear me saying that when we talk about structure, when we talk about putting order in place, that order now isn't to suffocate you. We can still make room for you to still be hands-on, especially if that's what gives you meaning. Let's carve that out. But let's also make sure that we are still putting in the scaffolding that's needed. So what does a trellis actually look like? What does it look like in this stage? Not just in theory, but really practically. Well, it looks like now we're having weekly team meetings. It looks like there's a clear scorecard for roles. There's SOPs for everything as best as you can get it. There's project management systems. You're tracking progress. You have a simple dashboard with your 5 most important KPIs. You have defined lanes that everyone is operating in. It's really about creative protection, so your energy can focus on strategy and not just scrambling. Now, even if your team is very small, these systems that we're talking about, you still need them because they help to create leadership maturity in you. You're not just building a business. I keep saying that. You might think that I sound like a broken record at this point, but you're building a way of working. You're building a culture for people to follow, right? You're not just the CEO of your business, the chief executive officer, but you're also the chief culture officer. I'm going to take a moment now to focus on some of the pitfalls that you need to watch out for in this stage. And number one is holding on to too much because you're afraid to delegate. We've touched on that a little as we've talked today and even in a previous video. Number 2 is creating overly complex systems that no one uses. I've worked with clients where we spend time, we create some SOPs, we create these policies and procedures, and then when they're finished, they're placed in a book and no one remembers that it's there. No one is held accountable for its implementation and for following back up to make sure that the work is actually being done. And we need that. And we don't want to make the system so complicated that nobody does it either. We want to avoid micromanaging. Sometimes when an entrepreneur begins to delegate and they begin to offload things on people, because of the nervousness, and I'm gonna just say it, because of the lack of trust that sometimes we put in our employees, we hover around them like we're like a helicopter parent, and we micromanage every aspect of it, and that's not really good at all. You want to train your people, you want to empower them, and you want to be able to trust that they're going to deliver what you're asking them to deliver. You want to avoid that what you're asking them to deliver. When you embrace the Trellis stage, you reclaim your energy for higher level work. You stop just maintaining and managing tasks, but now you're really able to step into your role and to steward the vision of the companies. This is where you shift from reacting to designing, from wearing every hat to wearing the right hat. You stop seeing structure as a burden and start seeing it as an infrastructure of ease. This is now a channel that's going to give you freedom, that's going to make your life easier, that's going to allow you to leave work at a decent time, that's going to allow you to have a full night's rest, okay? This is where you become who your business needs you to be. Not just the starter, not just the scrambler, but the strategist, the steward, the systems builder even. So do you want to know what next level leaders all have in common? Here are 3 things to start with. Number 1, there is a weekly CEO day for strategy, review, and vision. We are going to have to make time to break away from doing all the things so that we can have time just to reflect, just to think, just to assess. Number 2, there's a bi-weekly team sync. There are clear updates, there are role alignment, you're checking in, you're making sure that you're not just delegating, but you're abdicating. You're making sure that you're not just abdicating, but you're delegating. You're still maintaining control of the outcome, even as you may offload the specific task to someone else to run with. And then number 3, a monthly metrics review. Track what's working and track what's not working. These rhythms don't take time, even though they do, but they give time. That's the most important part, right? More than just taking time, they actually give you back time. It's like they create containers that carry your vision farther and carry it there faster. So here's something that I want you to think about. What's that one task that you're doing that someone else can actually own if you help to give them the right system to do so? And then ask yourself, here's a bonus, ask yourself, what kind of leader does my next level of business require of me? And then how are you going to grow to become that leader? I always like to say this, the Trellis stage isn't about bureaucracy, right? It's not about becoming corporate per se. It's about becoming intentional. It's about building the kind of business that frees you and not buries you. If you felt stuck between growth and burnout, then this is your way out. Let's put some systems in place. Let's build a trellis. Let's build support. And let's build it in such a way that it really frees us to have the greatest impact that we can in our communities and then in the world around us. I want to encourage you again to download that free Builder's Blueprint. You can find the link in the description below. It goes through all the stages of business, and there are activities and prompts that you can utilize as you are building a business that will support you. Until the next time, keep building and keep becoming.